thank you. So my name is Marcelo, and I'm actually going to talk a bit about Starlet and Unicorn as well. So yeah. But today the talk is how to become a FastAPI expert. So a bit about myself. I am currently the top FastAPI expert. That means, well, I've helped a lot of people by now. I've helped the community mainly on issues on the Discord server, on the Gitter server as well. And I've also made some contributions besides that. And also, I am a maintainer of Unicorn and Starlet. If you have ever used FastAPI, you are probably familiar with at least Unicorn, which is the server implementation that you use to run FastAPI applications and applications that follow the same protocol interface. And I'm also a maintainer of Starlet, which is the web framework that provides the part of web capabilities for FastAPI. And yeah, that's basically what I do on open source. And so I'm going to start with what's FastAPI, but I guess by now a lot of people already know what is it at least. Yeah, so FastAPI is a web framework that is used to build APIs. And thank you. And it was created almost 4 years ago by Sebastian, or Tiangolo, on GitHub. And the thing is that why was the framework created when we already had two big frameworks on the ecosystem, right? We had Django, and we also had Flask. The thing is that Sebastian was, at the time, was not quite as satisfied on some topics of those two web frameworks, and he thought of a way to kind of improve them. And he worked on some improvements on some plugins on Flask mainly. But then at some point he thought, well, I want more than what the plugin can offer. So he created FastAPI mainly because it provides, well, the idea of FastAPI is to provide a cool data validation out of the box, and you have documentation with Swagger. And you also are able to use the Python modern stuff like type hint and async Python. And the thing is that all of this was actually started from a GitHub issue. So 4 years ago, Tom Christie, which is the creator of Starlet, Unicorn, Django REST Framework, MKDocs, and HTTPX, he created this issue which tried to improve the schema generator. The schema generator is a feature of Starlet which is not well known, mainly because everybody knows what is FastAPI, and FastAPI creates this documentation out of the box with Swagger. But the thing is that on this issue, Tom asked, what can we do to improve the schema generator? Because the schema generator generates the OpenAPI JSON, but not automatically as FastAPI does. And then what happened is that Sebastian asked that. So he was pretty happy about the code source that we have, well, Tom had on Starlet. And then he introduced a lot. He answered the question, what can we do to improve that part of the code of Starlet? And he created a plan. So if you go to Starlet right now and you check this issue, 172, you're going to see this post, this answer. And it has a list, a huge list of things that Sebastian thought to improve Starlet. I don't think this thing is very known because no one has, like, there are not many thumbs up there. But this is the beginning of FastAPI. So in November 4th is when he wrote this comment, and it says all the ideas for FastAPI. And a month later, FastAPI was born. So, which is quite cool, right? And the thing is that my path does not match what like the story of where I came in does not match exactly with this, because I actually came in on the things after 1 year and a half, a bit more. And I was in a situation, I've just moved to France to a new job, and then I was working there for 2 months already, and then my boss asked me to choose the web framework for our next service. It was going to be a service that was going to replace an old one. And yeah, I needed to choose. So he asked me, can you please choose between Django and Flask? And then I was quite excited because I had just started the job, and I was working with a service in Flask. I mean, it was cool, but we had huge problems with data validation. And when I was doing the pros and cons list of both frameworks, Django and Flask, I mean, I was quite excited, so I created a list. This makes sense. And then I found out about FastAPI. And basically, the framework had a lot of pros at the time, and I chose to propose this to my boss, which was quite good. And I proposed that to my boss, and I told him that we should use it, and then we started using it. The thing is that I proposed a new framework that was not very mature, I'd say. At the time, it was 1.5 years. And so I had to learn a lot, because I put me in a position that I chose to be in a position on which my team didn't know about the framework. So I wanted to know more about it so I could share the knowledge of my team. And what you're seeing on the screen, it is my first interaction with the FastAPI repository. I actually don't understand much what I tried to do there, but I guess I helped someone because there is a small thumbs up there, so I guess it was helpful. But yeah, so this actually was the beginning of my interaction with open source, with a comment that doesn't have even the Python highlight there. But yeah, so this is where it started. I was able to start interacting with the repository, and I also started sharing knowledge across my team. And that was cool. Then at some point later, I created my first issue, which it was actually a bug. Well, most of the time people create issues especially on FastAPI, and they are not actually bugs. They are actually questions, and this was a bug itself. The content of the bug is not very serious, it was just a small thing. But I was happy that I was able to create something that was not a waste of Sebastian's time. And yeah, and then at some point later, so this is June 7th, my first issue. And then sometime later, I created my first pull request, which, as you can see with the caps lock there, I was very excited. But this pull request only had a link, so it was just adding a link on the documentation. But I mean, I was quite excited. It was my first pull request, and yeah. So this is more than 1 month later than that. Yeah, and that was cool. And the thing is, as I interacted a lot with FastAPI, and I helped a lot my team on, mainly because of this, like interacting with open source and helping my team, I got a lot of visibility in the company, so I got promoted. So this is just a small comment of good things that can happen outside what you're doing on your free time. So this was quite cool for me. Well, the dog is not related, it's just a cute dog. But yeah. And also, the thing is that at some point, it was already December 2020. So as we saw on July, it was my first pull request on FastAPI. And on December, I noticed that I wanted something more than what I was doing on FastAPI, because there is, like, I was being kind of not pushed down, but Sebastian had no the amount of commits or pull requests that were being created at the time, in the sense that I wanted to contribute more with code, and I felt like my pull requests were being stuck or something like that. And then I've decided to look around, But what you see here is just that those are the contributions like for FastAPI right now. I took it this week. And so Sebastian has most of the contributions. And those two that are in front, like in second and third, are mainly translations. So I kind of have the second, not considering translations. But mainly those are small things, not something big. Yeah, so I was not satisfied with not being part of the code as much as I could be. So I tried to help a bit with Pydantic, because Pydantic is also one of the dependencies of FastAPI. It provides the data modeling and validation part of the framework. And I also look around Uvicorn. When I look at the code source of Uvicorn, I didn't understand anything. And it was funny. My first, I wanted to understand what was happening there. There were a lot of concepts that I didn't have any idea, I just didn't have any idea about what was happening there. But I started contributing anyway. This is my first request on Uvicorn, and it just makes it compliant with a release that Uviloop, which is known as the fast event loop in Python. It's a package, and I just make it compatible with Uvicorn again, because they broke it. So I pinned the version. That was it. And the thing is that on that pull request, Yuri Selivanov commented. And I didn't know at the time that he was an important person. He's basically one of the people that created the async Python, the async capabilities that Python has. And he's also a maintainer of Uviloop and HTTP tools, which are basically the packages that makes FastAPI be fast, if that makes sense. And he made this comment, which right now I find it cool because he is important, and was my first pull request, and I had no idea that this happened there. And well, so I made my first contribution, but it was a simple contribution. And then what I did after was to talk with one of the maintainers of Uvicorn. His name is Benoit. And I talked to him and I said, do you think it makes sense to start adding type annotation to Uvicorn? And he said, yeah, sure, let's try. So I created this issue on Uvicorn, I create a list of files, and I propose to incrementally add type annotation to each of those files. And this was great for me because, well, and for the framework and for everybody, but it was great for me personally because I learned a lot, and I was able to find a lot of bugs, not big bugs, but a lot of small bugs were found while creating this path of type annotating Uvicorn. This is actually already not finished. There are still 2 files that need to be fully type annotated, reviewed. And this was created more than a year ago. But well, it helped a lot. And at some point on that path, it was when, this is Euri10, known as Euri10, but his name is Benoit. And he asked me if I would like to join the Uvicorn maintainers, the Encode organization. The Encode organization is the same as Starlet, HTTPX, and Django REST framework. It's inside of it still, for now. And yeah, so this is my first request, which I was able to merge it. So this was cool. Yeah, so we are in the midst of 2021. Now, more than a year later than I started with FastAPI. And and some months after I started contributing to Uvicorn, I started to help on Starlet as well. I started with some humble pull requests. Again, everything started with some small steps. I didn't start doing huge stuff, so just try to help somehow. And on Starlet, I also did the same thing with a lot of help of Jamie. I didn't put his face here, but he was the most active maintainer at the time. And he helped a lot to like review my pull requests and get them merged. But the thing is that on September, between August and September, there were not many commits on Starlet itself. So it was kind of stuck for this amount of time. So we had only 3 commits in a month and a half. And I had a lot of pull requests created at the time. So when you are a maintainer of Unicorn, you are also a maintainer of Starlet by default because I am part of the organization. So I could also step in here and help. And that's what I did. So if you see July to September, 3 commits, and then the month later, I helped quite a bit considering what we were. So this is just a week after the previous picture, so 11 commits. I did something there. And from then on, I started helping more on Starlet itself. So from July, August, September that year, 2021, I helped a lot on Starlet till the end of the year. And then on January, I changed some stuff in my life that I just want to mention. So before this, I had a lot of bad habits in my life, so I just want to mention this point because since this year, I've started doing some stuff that helped me a lot on open source and in my normal life, like my life. So before, going to sleep very late, doing a lot of open source all day long, morning and night, and not having time. Well, there's quarantine stuff as well. And I put all my efforts on open source on my free time, besides what I was doing at work. And when 2022 arrived, I said that I was going to change some stuff in my life, but I didn't remove the open source part. I still do a lot, and I included healthy things. I eat healthy now, and I also do a lot of sports every day. And I just want to mention this because this didn't change my interaction with open source, as actually this year was the one that I had more time to help on open source itself, on Starlet mainly, and also on Unicorn. And the thing is, I do have a strict routine, and it does now I'm more healthy, and I also can contribute. So sometimes people say that they don't have time, but actually you can make time if that's your priority. I mean, sometimes it doesn't need to be, but everything is possible in that sense. And also on Unicorn, as I said, a lot of contributions on both of them. And so, but the thing is, I say a lot of open source and a lot of what I did for the frameworks, but I didn't answer exactly, I guess, how to become a FastAPI expert. And the thing is that I don't quite have a good answer for that. What I did and what was my experience, I was every day, I watched the FastAPI repository and I started answering all the issues. I didn't know most of what was written on most of them. I think what I usually say is that I tried to Google better than what they were asking. So I spent more time than the people that were there. So that was basically the secret of learning. And when I wanted to learn more, I went deep on the frameworks that are below FastAPI. But if you want to help FastAPI, you can do it. We have a Discord server. We always try to help people there. We have the GitHub issue that there are a lot of issues that can also, like if you want to help, you can also try to Google better than the people that are asking and then learn a lot from what people are saying, because sometimes understanding the problem is also very helpful to understand what's happening on the framework. Yeah, so help others is what helped me on this open source path till now. I didn't stop helping on FastAPI or on the Discord server on the Gitter. Well, now I separate a bit of my time on stuff, but I organize a bit better. But I continue to help on the Discord server and on the FastAPI repository as well. And I think it's all about that. You help others, you help yourself, you can grow, everybody grows together. And so I think that's very useful if you want to understand better about FastAPI and also any other framework. Yeah, and it's just a plus. Take care of yourself. You can do everything. You don't need to sacrifice your life to do open source, because I hear a lot of people saying, "I don't have time," and then it is possible. You just need to. I mean, if you put that as a priority, you just need to organize a bit better what you do in your day, and then you can do it. And also, so at some point I said that I got stuck in FastAPI because I wanted to help more in code contributions, and I was not able to. And I mean, I had the option to not help anymore because I was stuck, right? And I know that sometimes it's difficult to see what you can do to improve stuff, like go beyond, but you can always talk to people. And I think this is the most important one. By creating opportunities, I mean talk to people that are on open source. Like I am super approachable. Sebastian as well. Like if you had talked to him on Twitter or LinkedIn, he replies everyone that asks something. Me too. So and then you can ask, what can I do to help or something like that. Usually people do say what you can do to help, and I also have some stuff that you can do to help. So this is what I would say if you want to help. That's it. Thank you.